Inclement weather in the seas 30 nautical miles off the Hambanthura area. Fire reignites aboard the empty New Diamond. Large-scale illegal acquisition of land in Hambanthura. Enforce the law. A direction from the District Development Committee. Commissions were unsuccessful. President needs the 20th Amendment to work. A statement from the Minister of Justice. Samagi Jana Balavega unanimously decides to defeat the 20th Amendment. Court permits Premalal Jayasekara to attend parliamentary sittings. Showery conditions to reduce. Wind speeds to increase.
A very good evening. You're tuned on to Monday's edition of Prime News with me, Joel Outschool. We start off today with a look at our top story. Now, the fire on board the empty New Diamond has reignited. Now, this is according to the Navy. The Navy added that the fire reignited due to strong winds and inclement weather conditions in the area.
The fire which was doused yesterday has now reignited on board the New Diamond. We believe that due to the strong winds in the adverse weather condition prevailing in the area, with the intense heat inside the ship's compartment has caused the fire. However, the cooling of the ship's hull was continuing since last evening. Now it has been converted to a firefighting effort. All the ships, 9 ships and tugs are in place.
Air Force media spokesperson Group Captain Dushan Vijay Singh has said that 1,500 kilograms of a fire retardant has been sprayed on the oil tanker by this afternoon. The Navy spokesperson added that the extreme heat in the metal section of the interior of the ship has made it difficult to extinguish the fire completely. Meanwhile, a group of foreign specialists engaging in operations to control the situation at the empty New Diamond reached the ship this morning. However, given the current situation, this group has been stationed on board another vessel. A group of experts from the Marine Sciences and Technology Division, the Nara Institute and the Marine Environmental Protection Authority were dispatched to analyze the situation on board the empty New Diamond. Besides the Sri Lanka Air Force, another aircraft of the Indian Coast Guard took off the Mattala International Airport to observe the situation in the area surrounding the ship. The commercial owner of the oil tanker, a company based in Athens, Greece, has employed a Singaporean firm to salvage the ship. The Navy said that this Singaporean company has dispatched experts on crude oil and equipment for operations at the empty New Diamond. The Assistant Director of the Search Operations Division of the Department of Fisheries, Padma Priya Tisera, informed the fishing community not to sail close to the empty New Diamond vessel.
Over the last few days, there has been quite a lot of concern in this country about one issue in particular. And that issue pertains to an oil tanker that had faced a bit of a problem in the deep sea of eastern Sri Lanka, and that is New Diamond, the oil tanker. So, as you can see behind me, what we have is a cross-section of a vessel. And what happened to the New Diamond oil tanker, now carrying 270,000 tons of oil, as you can see in these particular tanks in this model. The fire broke out back here at the back end of this particular vessel, where you see the fuel tank, where you see the engine room and the pump room as well. Now, following the breaking out of that explosion, flames started emerging from the vessel, which left the structural integrity of the vessel, especially in this part, heavily compromised. Now, this whole situation happened around 70 kilometers off of the eastern coast of Sri Lanka, that is in the deep sea off of the Hambanthura area. Now, the concerns here were particularly with regard to what will happen if the structural integrity of this particular vessel does decide to give way, and the repercussions that they will have to face. Now, especially given the nature of the vessel, given the fact that it was in fact carrying oil, there was an extremely high risk of pollution. There were also multiple discourses on the drift patterns, whether the particular oil will drift inwards, whether it will drift away. And also there were concerns that the vessel, while being engulfed in flames, was moving closer. At one point it had drifted to only 28 miles away from the coast of Sri Lanka and had to be pulled back into the deep sea by tugboats. There still remains a few issues. There hasn't been a decision made on whether they are going to hand this vessel back to the respective authorities. The ownership, that is the Greek firm that owns it, that hasn't been said whether they are going to bring the vessel towards the Sri Lankan coastline, and decisions haven't been made in this regard as of yet. But there still remains a risk. There still remains a risk that an oil spill, although has not happened yet, could happen and potentially pose a great risk to Sri Lanka. What will happen? What will be the decisions made? And what will be the impacts that these decisions will have on us? It remains to be seen.
Well, thank you, Deshan, for that update. Moving on, large-scale land acquisition taking place in the Hambanthura district were discussed at the District Coordinating Committee meeting, which was held today.
The District Coordinating Committee meeting was held today under the joint chairmanship of the Governor of the Southern Province, Willy Gamage, and Parliamentarian Dr. Upul Galappathy. Ministers Chamal Rajapaksa, Namal Rajapaksa and Mahinda Amaraveera, as well as the head of state institution in the Southern Province, were also present. A question raised by the chairman of the Hambanthura Pradeshya Sabha, Anuradhapura regarding the human-elephant conflict in the Hambanthura district was discussed at length at the meeting.
This problem cannot be solved unless it is done in a way that these animals can move without causing harm to humans. Finally, this issue burdens the Wildlife Department and the Divisional Secretary. Innocent people are the ones who suffer from this. Elephants, in particular, often travel only in areas where they can move freely. The best example is that from March this year to June, there was not a single elephant death and not a single human death. People were at their limits and animals were at theirs. If we identify the areas where animals are and where we ought to be, in addition, if we put up an electric fence in cases where people live in the wilderness, we can protect them. Next, if you indicate the paths to the animal, they can proceed. They have been marked. These are large-scale acquisitions of lands that leave us helpless. Minister, these are illegal seizures. When that happens, it becomes a problem. If you go and talk to the people in the farmers' organization, they will tell you what kind of a situation has arisen. But it is not the voices of the average people that come forward. The Department of Wildlife Conservation has no ownership of the lands in Mathala. All lands are under Mahaveli and Forest Department, so we can't deal with them. We have not allowed such encroachments on lands under the Department of Wildlife Conservation.
Meanwhile, a section of the land on which the Janata State Development Board has administrative powers on the western slope of the Hambanthura mountain range has been fenced off by a certain group. It has also seen the manner in which a part of it was set on fire and destroyed.
The extraordinary gazette that was issued on the 17th of February in 2010 grants the regulatory powers with regard to the environment under the purview of the Central Environmental Authority. A particular group is setting fire to this ecosystem in the guise of acquiring these lands. But the issue at hand is the lackadaisical behavior of the Central Environmental Authority at the time where it has been granted the power of management and regulation of the area. Also, the Janata Estate Development Board and the Land Reform Commission are disposing of land according to their own whims and fancies. The situation at present has arisen as a result of these acts. Destroying the environment is similar to organized crime. We lose the air we have to breathe. We lose the water we have. From destroying the environment, we destroy ourselves. We ask that the authorities who turned a blind eye towards the destruction of the environment should be brought before the law and punished just like others.
Just a small question. Do you remember the stock of foreign garbage that caused a great deal of controversy in the country? Now the question is, what happened to this pile of garbage?
The Central Environmental Authority said that the United Kingdom has already agreed to take back these garbage containers found in the Colombo port premises and the investment zone in Katunayaka.
As a Centre for Environmental Justice, we are hoping that legal actions will be taken against the people who brought these garbage containers to Sri Lanka illegally and caused environmental pollution here.
When we continuously question the responsible parties about the stock of garbage, which is found in July last year, they said that they would take further action as per the court order. However, the party responsible for the case failed to submit the required test reports to the courts on time, delaying the court verdict. With the misplacement of case files on the 18th of December last year, the Court of Appeal even had to adjourn the hearing of the case. Under these circumstances, last February, the panel of judges said that the orders issued by the courts would not interrupt the re-exporting process of the containers carrying garbage. However, it's been more than a year and the garbage containers remain in Sri Lanka.
With the COVID-19 problem around the world, it became difficult for us to properly coordinate and do this, which is why it took us so long to fix all these things. Anyway, now we have made arrangements to re-export the waste containers back to the United Kingdom. The relevant environmental agency in the United Kingdom also has expressed its willingness to accept all the waste containers back, and now we are having discussions with the Sri Lanka Customs to return the containers as soon as possible.
Now, while we hear the damage of the environment which is subject to be heard, an incident where a youth had to pay with her own life due to human activities was reported. A 29-year-old girl lost her life at the hands of an illegal construction site.
This is the land that is under development, set to be auctioned off. Recently, a wall was built around the land. The wall was about 10 feet higher than that of the house. Due to heavy rainfall experienced yesterday, the wall and the newly constructed concrete pillar collapsed onto the house. Geetika Shamali, 29, who was sleeping at home at the time, lost her life in this tragedy. Geetika Shamali worked at a private drugstore in Kaduwela. Shamali's mother and two brothers who were injured in the incident have been admitted to hospital. Shamali's mother is currently in the intensive care unit of the National Hospital.
A number of incidents were reported in several areas with heavy rainfall today. There were strong winds with rain in several areas last evening as well. A wall and a mound of earth collapsed on a house on Mendis Avenue in Hatton, while the locality was inundated with heavy rains and strong winds. No one was injured in the accident. The power supply to a row of estate houses in the Manikwatta area in Hatton Dikkoya was disrupted due to a tree falling on a high voltage power line. More than 60 houses in the Manipe area in Hasalaka were damaged by a strong gust. Meanwhile, two buildings of the primary section of Morayaya Sangabodhi Vidyalaya were damaged, and our correspondent said that the students of the primary section of the college have been given leave. Meanwhile, a house in the Alagama Kandegama area in the Varakapola Divisional Secretariat was partially damaged when a mound of earth collapsed on it. This is how the Bulat Sinhala Molkava main road was flooded due to the overflowing of the Kukuleganga. Our correspondent stated that vehicular movement had been disrupted in several areas including Atamagaha Junction, Kelinkanda and Molkava. Blew through last night. Out of this, 10 houses were completely damaged. The overflowing and eventual flooding of the Attanagalu Oya left about 25 houses in the Kalotuawa area in Tiharia inundated. A tree had fallen on a house in the Pahalagama area in Tiharia last night due to strong winds as well. Our correspondent said that the areas of Tiharia and Dulmale were also inundated due to the inclement weather, leading to the flow of traffic in these areas being disrupted. Meanwhile, the irrigation department announced this afternoon that the Gampaha Jayala Road, the Kirindavita Ganemulla Road and several places around Kirindavita could flood tonight. 2 trees have fallen on a building belonging to the Vocational Training Authority of Sri Lanka near the Maravilla beach area. Traffic was disrupted due to a tree falling across the Selagapatha road as a result of strong winds that blew through the Vattala area last afternoon. Nearly 77 houses in Valimada and Uva Paranagama have been damaged due to strong winds. Officials from the Disaster Management Centre said that residents of homes that have been completely damaged were relocated to other locations. Meanwhile, strong winds and heavy winds affected a number of other areas as well. This is how several places in the city of Colombo looked last night.
Yesterday's severe showery and wind condition has reduced today. However, according to the Met Department, this condition is only temporary and could change in the upcoming days. Now, due to the heavy rainfall, the upper section of the Athanagalu Basin has reached a minor flood level, and due to this, the low-lying areas could also reach a minor flood level. Now, talking about the wind speeds can be increased up to 50 kilometers per hour in the northern, north central, northwestern, Trincomalee, Hambanthura, Kandy and Nuwara districts. Now, general public is requested to take adequate precautions during this extreme weather.
Now, the debate on the 20th Amendment to the Constitution continues in the country. Minister of Justice, who spearheaded the preparation of the draft, expressed his views on this amendment in Kaluthara.
We have come here to work and not to make amendments or write books. We are removing the 19th Amendment to create an environment for the President to work. The 19th Amendment gave powers to the Police Commission expecting for a decrease in the number of crimes. Did the crime rate go down or go up? In 2015, the number of drug-related cases was 6,700. In 2016, it was 7,900. And in 2018, it was 11,000. Last year, it was 16,000. And this year, it rose to 14,000. What's the point of having these commissions? Do we want the commissions or do we want to reduce crimes? That is why we thought enough is enough. Just preparing reports is useless. There are some provisions in the 20th Amendment to the Constitution that grants immunity to the President from any legal action. That is not right. If the President is behaving in a manner that would hinder the legal proceedings of the country, he should be presented before the court. There are some provisions that weaken the powers of the Auditor General in this amendment. Carrying out audits at some ministries have been halted as well. That is wrong too.
The draft 20th Amendment to the Constitution permits people who are dual citizens to enter Parliament. But we very well know how our country suffered when dual citizens were appointed as heads of government institutes, like the central bank of the country. The President and the government should make these constitutional amendments to avoid such lapses.
President is the head of state and the head of the defense, but centralizing all the powers to one place will not benefit the country. His main responsibility is to maintain the security of the country and then to look into the welfare of the Buddha Shasana. It is enshrined in the Constitution. All other responsibilities and development activities should be delegated to the Prime Minister and the Cabinet of Ministers.
The Samagi Jana Balawege unanimously agreed to defeat the draft 20th Amendment to the Constitution today. The Samagi Jana Balawege parliamentary group reached the decision at the parliamentary complex during a meeting chaired by its leader Sajith Premadasa. The motion was put forward by Buddhika Patirana and was seconded by Ashoka Abesinghe. The Samagi Jana Balawege maintains a position to further strengthen the principles of democracy in the 19th Amendment to the Constitution and to expand it to 19+.
Now, the Saudi authorities have decided not to charge any fee or fine as a relief for exiting Sri Lankan migrant workers. In a release, the Ministry of Foreign Relations said government of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has offered that any Sri Lankan migrant worker who could not depart the kingdom during the visa validity period due to the COVID-19 pandemic will be permitted to leave the kingdom without being charged any fees or fines. According to the release, this decision applies to all Sri Lankan migrant workers with valid or expired visit visas of all kinds, re-entry visa or final exit visa. It added that this is a temporary measure taken by the Saudi government given the circumstances faced by the Sri Lankan migrant workers due to the COVID-19 pandemic. With the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, countries across the world went into lockdown with all ports of entries to those nations closed. While Sri Lanka took steps to bring back many people who were stranded in these countries, including students and expatriates, limitations in accommodation at quarantine facilities are meant that not everyone could get back as soon as they hoped to. Bureau of Foreign Employment Bureau says that there are 56,000 expatriates waiting to return back to Sri Lanka.
Yesterday, quoting an email from a resident worker in the United Arab Emirates, Sunday Times newspaper reported that out of the 350,000 Sri Lankans, 25 to 30,000 migrant workers await repatriation. The report added that 14,000 of them are desperate to return to the country. Meanwhile, more than 30 Sri Lankans are trapped at the Masha camp in Saudi Arabia owing to visa expiries and salary issues.
We do not have jobs. We have not received salaries in 4 to 5 months. We don't understand why a flight has not been sent for us to return home. When we left the country, we were insured by the Foreign Employment Bureau. Can't they obtain money from the insurance and give us a ticket? We're helpless and we are suffering. I have been here for 2 years to get my salary for 1 year. Why do they do this? We are helpless. Our children are waiting for us to come home.
They keep assuring that we will be sent home, but nothing has been done. When are they sending us to Sri Lanka? It has been 5 years. Our visas will be cancelled in 2 years.
Most women who are trapped overseas are being abused. Pregnancies have also been reported. What is the process to bring them back to Sri Lanka? Who will take the responsibility for those who were abused and those who lost their lives? Does a woman who went abroad as a housemaid and was sexually abused and had a pregnancy have the right to have an abortion in Sri Lanka?
අතවරයකට ලක් වෙලා එහෙම ගැබ් ගැනීමක් සිද්ධ වෙච්ච කාන්තාවකට ගබ්සාවේ අයිතිය ලංකාවේ තිබෙනවද?
Meanwhile, journalists raise questions from the commander of the Sri Lanka Army about the program to bring back those trapped overseas due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The government of Sri Lanka is planning to bring them back to the country amidst many difficulties. However, there could be delays. These delays are also due to the well-being of the people. And that's why we have still managed to curb the spread of the virus. This is not an easy task. We make sure whoever returns to the country undergoes a PCR test and subject themselves to quarantine without infecting other persons. Meanwhile, a recent report jointly authored by the Walk Free Foundation and the Commonwealth Human Rights Initiative has shown that a staggering 40% of the world's 40.3 million people living in modern-day slavery reside in the Commonwealth nations that Sri Lanka includes. The report points out that COVID-19 has only made everything worse, as the increasing job losses, restrictions on movement and the closure of regular migration pathways have created the perfect conditions for modern-day slavery to flourish.
And in news from courts this evening, the Court of Appeal granted permission for Premalal Jayasekara, who was sentenced to death, to attend Parliament sittings. An interim order also issued by the court stating the permission which was granted will be in effect until the petition filed by Premalal Jayasekara is taken up for examination and a verdict is delivered. The Court of Appeal granting permission to examine the petition ordered the Valleycott Prison Superintendent and the Secretary General of Parliament, who was named as respondents, to appear in court on the 29th of September. The Court of Appeal said as the parliamentary seat of the petitioner was not challenged as an elected public representative, he has the privilege of taking oaths in Parliament. Now, on the 31st of July, Premalal Jayasekara was sentenced to death by the Ratnapura High Court as he was found guilty on the indictments of shooting one person and injuring two others. Now, after debates on the constitutional amendments, political debates and, of course, inclement weather, we now switch our focus on some of the issues faced by the people of our country. The government teams today visited the people living in the districts of Anuradhapura, Galle and Mannar.
The people in Galenbindunuwawa in Anuradhapura are without hope. 70 families in Mahasenpura drink brackish water. Most people in the village are suffering from kidney disease as they have been drinking brackish water for a long time. A well has been constructed for these villagers to fetch water about 2 kilometers away from where they live, but that too is located near a reserve. Just 3 months ago, a villager was killed by an elephant while trying to fetch water from the well. Villagers in Musale, Muttare Puture in Mannar have what they call a one-way luck. The luck comes from the fact that the government has built houses for them, but unfortunately, the people have not been allowed to settle under a roof as of yet. These people, who are also battered by no access to clean drinking water, only see water when there is a flood. It costs them 1,200 rupees a day to fill their tank at home with water. These people do not have proper means of income to earn this amount. The only request they had for us was to find a way to quench their thirst. Mahavela is a village that is located about 5 kilometers away from Ambalangoda. It is a pleasure to meet the people of this village as they have an interesting story. The reason for this is that the people in this village escaped 2004 tsunami by thanks to a wooden bridge set up in the area. However, today, that bridge is not there anymore. If a 10-foot wide bridge is constructed for these villages, they can reach the school, the police and the hospital in 2 minutes. Mahavela and Veragoda villages could be linked if a bridge is constructed connecting these two villages, connecting its people.
Moving on to more news this evening, the Governor of the Central Bank expressed his views today at the Jaffna District Secretariat on the difficulties faced by the people in Jaffna regarding the regulated and unregulated microfinances.
In the case of the Central Bank, there are many things which can be done by the Central Bank to facilitate development in the regions. It has been widely considered that microfinance is going to be some kind of a panacea, some kind of a overall solution for the problems in the rural and regional development areas. But that has also now become a problem as a result of various reasons. There are many problems associated with microfinance. The worst kind of personal tragedies are reported, including suicides as a result of the difficulties of repaying the loans taken and also the unscrupulous activities engaged in by the lenders to collect the money they have lent. Microfinance has now become a problem area which requires our attention and finding solutions. I am having my close contacts with the research community in this particular subject area in Jaffna. So with their assistance, we might be able to work out a sustainable program to resolve at least some of the issues of the microfinance subject area.
According to our government, the 2018 research report on socio-economic challenges in rural Sri Lanka, among a plethora of issues, 14% of people in the northern province face difficulties owing to microfinance. 20.5% of the responses we received in the Jaffna district face issues related to microfinance. The highest percentage of 23.5% was reported from the Vaunia district. Among the issues we identified during the government the door-to-door initiative.
The National Movement for the Protection of Consumer Rights had convened a media briefing in Colombo today. Now, several journalists questioned the organization on a number of issues, including the receipt of money and a heated situation in Sri
This is how our organization works. The customer's voice. This is the work we did. You do not know about it. The good and the bad in the market. Not only these, a book has also been written.
There
are 12 of us in this. Our legal advisor is Pratibha Mahanamaheva. We work together as a team. What is the problem? We say good things are good. What is not good is not good. I am the one who went against Sajid to remove the 1923 number. It was our organization, and at the time it was with Mahinda Rajapaksa. When the price of eggs go up or price of anything increases, I am on Ranil's side.
ඉතින් මට කතා කරව මගේ ළඟ රෙකෝඩින් තියෙනවානේ මේ ඇවිල්ලා මේක බලන්න මේ කියන්නකෝ මගේ ළඟ ස්කෝඩ් දාන්න මේ වීඩියෝ කරන්න මල්ලි මගේ ළඟ ස්කෝඩ් දාපු ඉතින් කියන්න මේක වීඩියෝ කරන්න කියන්න හරි මගේ ළඟ දාපු ඉතින් කියන්නවා ඔයා කියන්නකෝ හරි ඔයා ළඟම කියන්න ඔයා කොහොමද ප්‍රැක්ටිස් කරන්නේ ඔයාට ප්‍රශ්නේ මොකද්ද මට මාත් දැනෙන්නේ ඔයාට ප්‍රශ්නේ මොකද්ද මාව ගණන් ගන්න ඔයාට මොකද? ඔයා ගණන් ගන්න නැද්ද? මේ වගේ හුරුදු ගණන් ගන්න. මේ වගේ හුරුදු ගණන් ගන්න. ඒ හුරුදු ගණන් ගන්න. මගේ ළමයා ඉස්කෝලේ දාපුවා කියන්න. මගේ ළමයා ඉස්කෝලේ දාපුවා දැන් මම ඔයාලට සල්ලි දැන් දෙනවා මං සල්ලි. ඔයයි මම ඔට්ටුවා. මගේ ළමයා කවුද මගේ ගෑනන්ද පිරිමිලාද මගේ ළමයා? ඔයා මගේ ළමයා ගෑනන්ද පිරිමිලාද කියන්නකෝ. මල්ලි මේ හරි එන්න කියන්න. හරි මේ ඔක්කොම ඒවට පස්සේ මම කියන්න. ඔයාට මම පෙන්නන්න. අපිත් බය නැහැ අපිට කාටවත්. අපිත් බය නැහැ කාටවත්. යකෝ ජනාධිපතිතුමත් හැප්පෙන එක අපිට මොකද යන්නේ? දැන් ඔයාලා තර්ජනය කරනවද? ඔයාලා එන්න කියන්නේ මොකද කියන්නේ? ඔයා එන්නේ නැත්තම් බැංකු කිතුම කොහෙද තියෙන්නේ? මොන සාතාවද? කාගේ නමකට දොස්තරෙක් ඉන්නවා කියන කොයියේ දොස්තරනාගේ නම්බර ඉස්සුව.
There has to be a code of ethics. I was also watching all this time. Remember that. You didn't see at the protests. If you are asking questions, be respectful. You can't threaten. If you want to fight, let's fight. I have no problem.
Former SLMC Provincial Councillor Shiblifaroku, testifying at the Presidential Commission probing the April 21st attacks, said the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress had agreed to a few clauses of a policy statement made by the National Tawhid Jamaat leader Zaharan Hashim to representatives of 5 political parties that contested in the 2015 parliamentary elections.
He said that before the 2015 parliamentary election, Zaharan had held discussions with almost all the political parties representing the Eastern Province. Members of the PCOI questioned the witness on Zaharan's brother Rilwan Hashim, who was injured in a clash between supporters of the NFGG, the UPFA and the SLMC in August 2015. Rilwan has been admitted to the Katangudi hospital following the incident. Responding, Farooq said that 4 persons were injured in the clash on the 21st of August 2015 and that Rilwan was also among them. During the testimony, Farooq also admitted that a key member attached to Zaharan's team, Ami Mohideen, had been working under him before March 2017.
Well, on that note, we wrap this edition of Prime Time News. Thank you very much for stopping by. Moni's follows on our website, that is www.newsfirst.lk. I'm Joel Outschool, together with our interpreter, Brian De Cruz. Take care. Good night.